Alrighty, everyone. So welcome back to your remote learning experience. It is Monday, the 23rd, and this week we will be starting a new unit on meiosis. Okay, so it is actually different than mitosis. Might be a little confusing to start, but we'll get through it together. Okay. Just a reminder that your mitosis models are due at 11:59 p.m. tonight. And also, I am missing some of your Quizlet quizzes and some of your mitosis vocabulary. So please get that in as soon as possible. I'm also missing some of your assessments from the climate change project where you were proposing alternative solutions to climate change. So whether that was like a tiny house or traveling by train or eating bugs like we talked about, that still needs to be completed. I'm going to mark it in PowerSchool as missing, so please check PowerSchool, and if it's missing, that means I don't have it from you. It's all right if you just have it in your folder or something, but please just email it to me as soon as you can, whether it's a picture of it or an actual copy. So whatever works, okay? So before we get into meiosis, we are going to talk a little bit about DNA and what happens to DNA during the cell cycle, okay? Because this knowledge of DNA is going to be very important for us moving into meiosis because a lot of interesting things happen to the DNA during meiosis, okay? So first, I want to briefly go over what happens to DNA during the cell cycle. Okay, so this is the model that we have of this cell cycle. We have G1 or GAP1, the synthesis phase or S phase, and G2 and GAP2. And those three phases are all part of interphase right here. So most of a cell's life is spent in interphase, kind of just getting prepared to undergo mitosis, okay? So a very important part of interphase is when the DNA is copied, okay? The DNA needs to be copied because all cells kind of need DNA as instructions, okay? They need to know what they have to do, okay? And that's what the DNA provides for them, is a set of instructions. So if you're a stomach cell, you know how to help digest food. Or if you're a muscle cell, you know how to contract someone's muscles and help them move their limbs. Things like that. So, yes, it's during interphase that DNA is copied, okay? And then the copies of the DNA are separated during mitosis or cell division. So remember, in mitosis, we have prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, and finally cytokinesis is when the two cells are officially split, okay? And mitosis creates two new identical cells, okay? So if I have a stomach cell undergoing mitosis, it's going to produce the same kind of stomach cell, okay? Which is very important because you don't want a stomach cell creating a skin cell or a liver cell creating a blood cell. So it makes sure that you get the same kind of cells so that it can perform the same function as needed, okay? So that is kind of an overview of what happens to DNA during the cell cycle. But we're going to move in a little closer to talking about DNA, all right? So this is DNA. It's my drawing of DNA, so it's probably not very exact, but DNA is a molecule that is kind of wrapped together in a twisted ladder, okay? And that's kind of what it looks like, all right? And before your cells undergo mitosis, when they're kind of just relaxing and hanging out, your DNA, it looks like this, okay? And this is chromatin. So like I've told you guys before, chromatin, it's just, your DNA looks like a bowl of spaghetti, all right? It's just hanging out there and it's not really ready to undergo mitosis yet, okay? But like I said, during interphase, when your DNA makes copies, or when your cells make copies of that DNA, your DNA starts to become a little bit more organized into what is called a chromosome, okay? So this is a chromosome. Here we have one sister, what's called a sister chromatid. So this is one part of the chromosome. And then this other part of the chromosome is also a sister chromatid. And these sister chromatids are copies of each other. So it's kind of why they're called sister chromatids, all right? And these sister chromatids are connected together at what is called the centromere, like this, all right? Another important thing to note is that your chromosomes have sections on them like this, okay? This little green band right here. And sections of chromosomes are called genes, all right? And genes help determine certain traits, like maybe eye color or hair color or skin color, things like that, all right? So we'll get to more into genes when we get into genetics, which is going to be very, very soon. But for now, that's all you need to know, is that a gene is a section of a chromosome, okay? So now I kind of want to talk about how chromosomes get replicated during DNA. During interphase and mitosis, okay? So this is an example of a chromosome, all right? Let's call it chromosome 1, all right? And it's important to note that most of your cells have 46 chromosomes, okay? 23 from your mom and 23 from your dad, okay? So this is just one chromosome, but imagine that there's 46 of these tightly packed into the nucleus of your cell, which is very interesting because your cells are very organized in the way that they pack their DNA, because you have a lot of DNA and somehow it's able to fit into the nuclei of your cells, okay? So this is just one chromosome, but keep in mind that you have 46 of these in most of your cells, okay? But when the DNA is replicated, you end up having another, this is the way I wanted, a copy of this chromosome. Okay, so if this is chromosome number 1, let me zoom out a little bit. This is chromosome number 1. This is the replicate of chromosome number 1. Okay, so it's a copy. So originally I started with just chromosome number 1. During interphase it was copied, and now I have a copy of that chromosome. Okay, so important for vocabulary and terminology, because sometimes it can be a little bit confusing, is this is called a chromosome. But this can also be called a chromatid, okay? chromatid, chromatid, okay? So this can be called either a chromosome or a chromatid. So think of maybe one of your friends who has a nickname. Maybe their name is George, but for whatever reason you call him Steve. I don't know who your friends are, but it's kind of like that. So this is just two names that mean the same thing, all right? Chromosome, chromatid, okay? But when we have the replicate of chromosome number 1, we can also call this whole structure a chromosome, okay? So these two chromatids together also make up a chromosome, all right? So I have two sister chromatids right here and one chromosome right here. So keep in mind that when your cells are undergoing cell division, there's 46 of these chromosomes in your cells, okay? So 46 of this whole thing, all right? So during mitosis, what happens is that these chromatids start to separate like this, okay? So the chromosome that's going this way is going into its new cell, and same for this one, it's going into its new cell. So this is a chromosome, this is a chromosome. Also, these can be called chromatids, and this is a chromosome like this. All right, and it gets separated during mitosis and goes into their appropriate cells like that, okay? So I kind of did a very crude drawing of that. So let's say we have this guy right here. I don't know, you can name him yourself. And I'm gonna zoom into part of his arm right here. And on his arm, I have a skin cell, all right? So there is the DNA in its chromatin-like structure, very spaghetti-like, all packaged into the nucleus. Okay? And then before the DNA is copied, you have these chromosomes right here. Remember, you have 46 of them, 23 from your mom, 23 from your dad. And then after it's copied, it looks like this, okay? chromosomes. I have 3 right here, but remember there's 46, each composed of 2 chromatids, like that. All right. And then these chromosomes get separated during mitosis via those centrioles and microtubules that we love so much. Okay? So that's just an important thing to note when we talk about mitosis. And leading into meiosis, it's going to be very important for us to keep track of the DNA because it's going to be moving around and it's actually going to be interacting with one another. And the whole process of meiosis in general is a process that helps make sex cells. So meiosis makes sperm cells and it makes egg cells. And it's actually really cool to learn about these kinds of things because this will lead us into genetics and thinking about how we actually get traits from our parents. So meiosis is actually a very cool process, or at least I think so, and I'm excited to get into it very soon. All right, so this is going to be it for today. I'm going to have you do just like one little exit ticket activity for this lesson, and then you'll be done with this, and then we'll actually get into meiosis tomorrow, which is Tuesday. Okay, so that's going to be it for today, and I hope that you guys have a fantastic rest of your day.